he described to me Rochester Imagine with this gloriously empty brick wall. And I said, let me put something together for you.
What was the story of Imagine that inspired the artwork?
I think we ought to start with, the backstory about Rochester Hills and how, then we came upon the additional idea, Doug, to develop the history of Imagine in films. That was the most recent artwork that you produced for us.
Actually, I went to an event at Emagine Theatres, mm-hmm. And when I was at the event, I was talking to this guy, this distinguished-looking guy, at the back bar about the mural that they had at the Emagine Theater in Royal Oak, right, Paul?
Yep.
And he said, well, I'm the owner. And I said, you are? He said, yes. I said, well, you need, and then he described to me Rochester Imagine with this gloriously empty brick wall. And I said, let me put something together for you to fill that wall that will be an eye-popping. So when you handed me an empty brick wall, I was in heaven, okay? I think that I did so many sketches, I wore Paul out for the original Imagine. I kept coming back and coming back and coming. I was just pestering him.
Well, we've got some gigantic walls that you have adorned with some beautiful artwork at this point in time. And if I'm not mistaken, Imagine Novi will soon be outfitted with your beautiful mural as well, Doug. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited about it. So we began with the Rochester Imagine, and that turned out fabulous. I was, to see the work up on the wall, there's nothing like it. If you go to any movie theater, anywhere, any place, there's nothing like the Imagine art mural. Original art at a dimension, a scale that's just, I think the Rochester is probably 60 feet long. And the new story of Imagine is what, 80 foot, Paul?
Yeah, we talked about it a lot, and it was important to me that it be proportional, that it not look undersized on the enormous wall that's above the front door. And so we kept expanding it in size, and I think it's the proper size now, and of course it's absolutely magnificent. I spoke to our manager, Kim, there recently and said, does anyone ever comment about our mural? She said, are you kidding? Virtually every guest that comes in looks at it and admires it and tries to guess the names of all the films and so forth. Yeah. And so it has really become an important attraction in that lobby, I'm pleased to tell you.
So Doug, what exactly art is in this mural, and why did you decide on the characters that you decided on?
Well, the story of Imagine is special. I had brought a new sketch for the Canton Imagine, and Paul looked at it, he liked it, he was very kind. But when he looked at it, he said, Doug, I'd like this to be my story, the story of Imagine, which has a history, and as he began to talk about what that history was, immediately I began to envision what the mural could be. So Paul knows I got incredibly excited. But Paul, maybe you could describe some of the images and why they were important to you.
Well, thanks, Doug. My history in the exhibition industry goes back to 1989, when my then partner and I bought a one-screen cinema in Clarkston with $50,000 we borrowed on our credit cards and $75,000 we borrowed from the bank. And the first film that we had the opportunity to show was now a cult classic known as Roadhouse. And I don't know if you've ever seen the uncut version of Roadhouse. Well, the theatrical version of Roadhouse was, let's just say, a little raunchier, little harder core than what you typically see on AMC.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I vividly recall sitting next to my wife and whispering to her the night we opened that film, my God, we've brought porn to Clarkston. And so Roadhouse is how it all got kicked off, going back to 1989.
What a funny story.
And so each of the films that are depicted in Doug's mural reflect pictures that had performed exceptionally well, that were memorable, that really helped propel our business over the years. And so that's why it's really the history of Paul's, period in exhibition.
Do you guys have a favorite part of any of the murals? Like, I know you were sending me pictures of the one in Canton. Is there like, I know, and it's massive, like you were saying, one is like 30 feet, one is like 80 feet. Is there one part of it that stands out?
Yeah, my favorite by far is Batman. I love the Michael Keaton Batman movie. And for me, it's very personal. When I was little, my dad and I would play Batman with the 1960s Batman TV series, which is real campy. And his favorite sort of superhero, which I know are huge now, was the Batman. So when I painted the Batman, actually that was the last image that I painted in the mural, was the Joker, which is just behind Batman's shoulder. I think it's his left shoulder. And the Joker is grinning. That's kind of my pride moment, that I completed the entire mural. That was the very last image I did, and I kind of did it for my dad, just because Batman in my world and in his world is so important.
Well, I'm kind of fond of dinosaurs, so Jurassic Park has been good to us over the years. And, one of the films that maybe folks wouldn't immediately recognize but was important to us was Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
And it was a Christmas film that went way back into our Clarkson cinema days with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And you have to understand, when you have only one screen, you've got to make some tough choices about what you think the public's going to want to watch over a Christmas holiday, because the studios were making us hold these films for extended periods of time, even though, we had but one screen at that juncture. And so Kindergarten Cop was really sort of a thank goodness moment, because it performed and it gave us a really solid Christmas season that year.
There's a story that Paul told me, I hope he'll tell it, about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, that is a really good story, Doug. I'm glad you brought it up. So my nephew Joe was about, I want to say, maybe 5, 6 years old at the time. And there was this film coming out that, candidly, it was being distributed by New Line Pictures. At the time, was an unknown distributor, and they were desperate to find play dates for this film. And so Joe's sort of, my 6-year-old nephew is coming to me. He says, Uncle Paul, are you going to play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And I'm thinking, what the heck's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? I have no idea what it is. Well, there wasn't much else playing that time of year. And I want to say it was right around this time of year, or Easter time, which is not always a huge period in the movies. But we were still operating the one-screen Clarkson cinema at the time. And it turned out that we had hit upon something that every 6-year-old and his sister and brother wanted to see at the time. It was the only time in the history of my history in the business where we sold out every single show from Friday night to Sunday night.
That is great.
I adore my nephew for recommending it. And hopefully
I can imagine.
I know you said that a lot of people will mention the mural when they come into the theaters, but how do you think it adds to the movie-going experience for these theater goers? When you can go to the theater, because obviously right now you can't.
Well, when we return to normalcy, and I'm hoping that's sooner rather than later.
Me too.
I'm a big believer that it's our responsibility to entertain our guests from the moment they enter the building. You'll notice that in most of our buildings now, we have player grand pianos, and we've introduced artwork. We really think that, giving folks something from the moment they walk in to please them and to entertain them is part of the overall experience. And candidly, that's what we're offering our guests these days, is hopefully a great entertainment experience.
That's awesome. And then Doug, did you use your upside down technique at all for this one?
I do. In fact, this particular piece, well, all the work that I do, I paint upside down. And, I lay it out right side up. But then once the images are in place, if I turn it upside down, it's like a second set of eyes. And I can really capture the images. Now, take the Emagine mural. the Imagine mural isn't one portrait or one action pose. It's multiple poses. It has a flow of motion and color. If you look at it, there's a movement in the piece, which you can capture, but by turning it upside down, it frees my artistic mind. And the funny thing is, I looked at Paul's mural, and I wouldn't advise this to other people, but I looked at it upside down much longer than I looked at it right side up. So to turn it right side up, I went, wow, this is cool. I'm liking the way this looks. So yeah, it frees me up with a second set of eyes. I pride myself on capturing, the image correctly. I don't want someone to look at it and say, it kind of looks like, no, that's not my world. It's got to be art, but you have to capture a portrait and actually look like the person.
Mm-hmm. Like the artwork that you have behind you, right?
Yeah. Well, I put Home Alone behind me because that is such an iconic image. And Paul said to me, Doug, you've got to make Home Alone the centerpiece. I mean, that image of him with his hands on like that, that is the almost iconic image of all time in movies. So I think he's the centerpiece of the Canton mural. And I believe he'll be the centerpiece of the Novi mural. Correct, Paul?
I'm also thrilled with the one immediately to your right, Doug, which is, I think it's Turner and Hooch.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, the dog movies.
Yeah, and so particularly when we had the one screen cinema, it was formulatic. The best performing movies had kids, dogs, and turtles.
There's an artist, Richard Amesley, I believe is his name, and he did the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie posters. So as I was painting the movie poster, repainting it for the mural, I'm thinking, man, you look at this guy's work, it's so identifiable. I said, I want my Imagine murals to be that way. You look at it and you go, that's got to be a Doug West.
So let me tell you the Titanic story, okay? We opened our first new build theater in 1997. And if you're hockey fans, you might recall that the Red Wings had not won a Stanley Cup playoff in 42 years preceding 1997.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't know if you recall, I do, but the Red Wings won on a Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And they won on a Saturday night about a week or so after we opened.
Wow.
You want to talk about a sad day in my life. I thought we were washed up. Everybody wanted to watch hockey. And what do we have? Movies.
Oh, that's funny.
And so the venue, we personally guaranteed the debt, and we were, up to our eyeballs in it. And, it really ramped up slowly. In fact, our bank at the time had to make some special arrangements for us to just pay interest only on our note. And ultimately, we were challenged because we could not close on our SBA loan. They said, well, look, you're not making your projections. We're not going to close. Well, that put our senior lender, our bank, in a really precarious position. Mm-hmm. Then in December of 1997, a little film came along called Titanic. Wow. And I assert that 1,600 people gave up their lives so we could survive financially. Wow. Because Titanic was the first time, January of 1998 was the first time we hit our projections. And then the SBA said, oh, you hit your projections, we'll close. And so it's particularly memorable to me because had that film not come around, perhaps there would be no Emagine Theatres today.
Wow. That's
a great story.
But I thought what was fascinating about it was I met an elderly gentleman at that time, and he said to me, he says, I haven't been to a movie in 50 years, but I wanted to come see what this was all about. And, wow. And so what was important about Titanic wasn't just that we hit our projections for that particular month, but it sort of introduced the venue to folks so they would know there was a great new place to go see movies. And after that, it was like, oh, people found us. And so literally, that was the entree to our continued success and maybe our survival in the business.
I promised Paul that I could get as many girls to come in and look at my mural as he did for Titanic.
Just have a viewing party. Like, come see a movie.
Viewing party.
Mural.
I love it. Viewing
Well, and
party.
you know, if we end up with the privilege of reopening before June 1st, there won't be any first run product available. And so maybe we'll have Titanic, Titanic reunion in our theaters. What do you think?
Oh yeah,
Love it.
yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
you know,
sense.
that
That's
would-
actually a good idea.
It would bring crowds.
Could make it a costume party. They could dress like the characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Paul, are you opening up any new Imagine theaters? Because I know you have some out of state.
Well, we're always working on new sites. We've got some in the hopper right now. I'm afraid commerce has come to quite a grinding halt generally at this point in time. But stay tuned. We're hoping to grow perhaps in a larger fashion quite soon.
I love the grand piano, by the way. When I walk in there, I always want to sit down and play the thing. If only I could play.
It's not part of my skill set, but there are some talented people that we engage to play from time to time.
We know that too, when all of this like coronavirus stuff is blown over, that people are going to be very excited to get back into seeing movies in person, and you can only stream for so much in your house.
When this does end, I think the masses are going to be pouring in for entertainment. You know, hands-on, popcorn, this, that. You know, because you want to get out of the house. We already do. It's only been what, a week or so.
Yeah,
Mhm.
same.
I know. It's crazy that it's only been a week and it seems like you just want to leave.
For sure.
Well, thank you both so much. We really appreciate you doing this.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks for having us. It's really a pleasure, and we look forward to welcoming you back to Imagine when we can throw those doors open. I'm like Doug.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of pent up demand, and folks will be delighted to congregate again.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yes, I think so too.
And I think we should show Titanic in honor of your mural.
I love the idea. I'll
that
be the
sounds
first
great.
in line.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Marvelous.
Christina.
Yeah.
Thank you all.